The healer house looks picture perfect until the walls, shadows, and even eyebrows start breaking the rules of reality. 1. The sink that lies. In Smoochie Kiss, Bandit runs to the laundry sink after a very awkward accident with his own foot. At first, everything looks normal. Hot tap on the left, cold tap on the right. The setup makes sense until it doesn't. Suddenly, the taps have switched sides, as if the sink itself decided to play a prank. 1 second, Bandit wants warm water. The next, he risks frostbite. Was it sloppy animation, or has the healer house entered a parallel universe where plumbing cannot be trusted? 2. The shadow that wouldn't leave. During the obstacle course, Bluey climbs the backyard ladder like a little champion. When she steps back down, something strange happens. Her body moves, but her shadow refuses to follow. For a full beat, it clings to the ladder as if it has its own plans. The effect is unsettling. Like a ghost forgot to check out when Bluey did. Maybe the animator slipped, or maybe her shadow finally wanted some freedom. Either way, it lingers just long enough to make you wonder if this episode is secretly haunted by a second Bluey that only exists in the dark. 3. The dad who forgot gravity. In the hotel, Bandit climbs out of bed, ready to play along with his kid's wild imagination. Then the scene takes a strange turn. His body is there, but his feet are gone, leaving him hovering a few inches above the floor. For a moment, he looks less like a tired dad and more like a ghost auditioning for a magic show. It is a tiny error, but it changes the mood completely. Instead of stretching like a normal parent, Bandit floats in midair like he has secretly unlocked levitation powers he never asked for. 4. The patch with a mind of its own. In Spy Game, Chili looks perfectly normal until her trademark eye patch decides to move. At first, it rests on the right side, calm and steady. Then, without warning, it jumps to the left, as if it got bored and wanted a better view. The switch is quick, but impossible to ignore once you notice it. For a split second, Chili looks like she is glitching between two different versions of herself. It feels less like a family barbecue and more like a secret spy mission where even her face accessories cannot stay loyal. 5. Stripe's mysterious tan. In the mall, something strange happens with Stripe. When he shows up, his fur is several shades darker than usual, almost like he spent a week lying under the sun without sunscreen. The problem is that nobody else looks different. Trixie is standing right beside him, and her fur is perfectly normal, which makes Stripe look even stranger. He is not glowing with a healthy tan, but instead looks like a burnt marshmallow that stayed too long at the campfire. It is such a small error, yet it completely changes how you see him in that moment. Was it a mistake in the color palette, or did Stripe sneak away for a risky holiday the others never knew about? 6. Bluey's rebellious eyebrows. In the beach, everything feels bright and sunny until Bluey's face decides to stage a protest. Her eyebrows, which should be yellow in the sunlight, suddenly flip back to their original blue. It happens quickly, but the effect is hilarious. One moment she looks perfectly styled for a seaside adventure, and the next it seems like her brows took a quick swim and washed off the color. The change does not fit the scene, and it makes her expression look strangely unfinished. Even her eyebrows cannot decide whether they belong in the sand or back at home. 7. The cinema with shifty walls. In cinema, the Healer family heads out for a normal movie trip, but the background cannot decide what it wants to be. When they first arrive, the wall near the snack counter is a bold red, giving the theater a classic look. A little later, that same wall has turned purple, as if someone repainted it during the film. The posters are even worse. At first, they advertise one set of movies, but seconds later, new titles appear with no transition at all. The setting behaves like a shapeshifter, switching colors and ads in the blink of an eye. Instead of a cozy trip to the movies, the scene feels like the Healers walked into a theater run by tricksters. 8. The chalk that refused rules. In Tradies, Bingo is happily drawing on the sidewalk when her chalk decides to misbehave. At first, the blue piece sits neatly on her right side, looking like it belongs there. In the very next shot, it has jumped to her left without anyone touching it. The strangeness does not stop there. When Bingo picks up the green chalk, her drawing still shows up in blue, as if the colors swapped identities. The whole scene feels less like a quiet afternoon and more like the chalk itself wanted attention, breaking the laws of physics to prove it was the real star. 9. The tail that took a break. During a playful scene in the hotel, Bandit spins around on the bed with his usual clumsy energy. For a moment, everything looks fine until his tail simply disappears. 1 second, it is wagging behind him. The next, it has vanished completely, leaving him looking oddly unfinished. The rest of his body is there, but without the tail, he seems almost like a different dog. The mistake lasts only a short time, yet it feels so strange that it pulls you out of the moment. It is as if his tail got tired of the chaos and decided to step out of the scene. 10. The letter that learned to float. In dance mode, the Healer family waits in line at the post office while chaos slowly brews. Behind them stands a background dog holding a letter, and at first nothing seems unusual. Then the envelope slips free, but instead of falling, it rises into the air like it has been possessed. For a brief moment, it hovers above the dog's paw, drifting with no explanation at all. Seconds later, it returns to its original place as though nothing happened. The scene turns ordinary mail into a ghostly sideshow, making it look like even letters in this world can practice magic tricks. 11. The snake with secret moves. In Hotel, Bluey and Bingo throw themselves into pretend play while Bandit struggles to keep up. At one point, a toy snake rests on the floor near Bandit's suitcase, left behind after Bingo's dramatic assistant act. The placement is clear and easy to spot, but only a few seconds later, the snake is no longer beside the suitcase. Instead, it has shifted several inches away, even though nobody touched it. The movement is impossible to explain within the story. It looks as if the snake decided to slither off on its own, quietly reminding everyone that even toys can misbehave. 12. The tomatoes that multiplied. In Favorite Thing, Bingo sits at the table with 4 cherry tomatoes on her plate. She tries to spear them with her fork, but chaos quickly follows. One tomato rolls off the table, and another splats dramatically onto Bandit's head. Logically, that should leave only 2 left. When the camera angle changes, however, the plate is full again with 4 tomatoes sitting there as if nothing happened. The sudden reset makes the food look supernatural, like the family is eating from a bottomless tomato bowl. 13. The limp that switched sides. In The Claw, Bandit pretends to be a claw machine for his kids, bending and twisting until he slams his right leg against the table. The pain is clear, and he lifts his left leg in response as though he cannot tell which side actually hurts. Later at dinner, the confusion deepens. His right knee is now wrapped in a bandage, even though earlier he reacted with his left. The mistake makes him look like a dad who not only loses games to his kids, but also loses track of his own injuries. It is a blooper with extra slapstick. 14. The patch that lost its place. In Christmas Swim, the Healer family enjoys a holiday dip, but Muffin's face cannot keep itself together. Normally, her dark patch begins neatly around her eye, giving her that familiar, slightly chaotic look. During her pretend office game with Chili, the patch suddenly slips lower, landing near her cheek instead. The change is quick, yet it makes Muffin appear like she's wearing a badly fitted mask. It is funny, but also a little eerie, as though her fur forgot where it belonged. 15. The Balding Bandit. In Horsey Ride, the kids turn Bandit and Stripe into horses and even hold a full wedding for them. Everything is silly but harmless until Bandit's head does something unusual. The dark blue patch that normally covers the part of his forehead suddenly vanishes. For a few seconds, his fur is one solid light color, making him look oddly bald. The timing makes it funnier because it happens right in the middle of the playful ceremony, as if stress from the wedding caused instant hair loss. The error is small, but it gives Bandit the unplanned look of a dad losing his mane. 16. The pup who lost her lashes. In Seesaw, the kids pile onto the playground equipment, trying to outbalance Bandit in a goofy test of weight. Koko joins the fun-looking stylish as always, complete with her long eyelashes that set her apart. Then the camera shifts, and her lashes vanish completely, leaving her face plain and almost unrecognizable. A little later, they return as if nothing happened, restoring her usual look. The sudden change feels like Koko briefly forgot to put on her makeup before remembering halfway through. 17. The spot that blinked away. In one park scene, Bingo bursts out of the carriage with her usual excitement. Everything looks normal until her brown head spot suddenly disappears for a single frame. The change is so quick that you could miss it if you blink, but once noticed, it looks bizarre. Without the mark, her face seems incomplete, almost like she borrowed someone else's head for a moment. Then, the spot pops back as if nothing happened, leaving the scene strangely unsettling. It feels like her fur went on a micro-vacation, abandoning her mid-leap before racing back just in time to avoid suspicion. 18. The case of the missing patch. In one quick moment, Bandit's face pulls a trick that is easy to miss. The patch of darker fur under his right eye vanishes, leaving his face lighter and strangely bare. The change makes him look oddly tired, almost like he rubbed his eye too hard and erased part of himself. A few seconds later, the patch is back in place, perfectly normal, as if nothing ever happened. The sudden shift feels more unsettling than funny, like Bandit briefly slipped into an alternate version of himself. It is a blink-sized mistake, yet it makes his face look oddly incomplete. 19. The rock that walked away. In Barky Boats, Calypso sits peacefully on a large rock, knitting while the kids play nearby. The rock is so solid and steady that it feels like part of the setting itself. Then, without warning, the rock is gone. Later shots of the same spot show Calypso standing on the ground as if the boulder never existed. The size alone makes the disappearance ridiculous because nobody in the scene could possibly have moved it. The moment feels like the rock decided to sneak off for a break, leaving the teacher stranded mid-lesson and the background looking strangely unfinished. 20. The pup with confused legs. In the creek, McKenzie joins the others for an outdoor adventure, but his fur cannot seem to stay consistent. Normally, his back legs are easy to tell apart, with one mostly black and the other mostly white. Near the end of the trip, after everyone gets muddy, his markings suddenly flip. Both legs appear white, as if the darker fur decided to take a day off. The change lasts just long enough to look strange before snapping back to normal. It feels like McKenzie briefly borrowed another dog's legs, turning a peaceful walk into an accidental body swap moment. 21. The shelves that played tricks. In the bedroom, Bluey finally gets her own space, but the room seems just as restless as she is. At one moment, there is a single shelf by her bed holding a lamp, neat and simple. Then the angle changes, and suddenly another shelf appears beside it, as if the house decided to give her more storage. Later, the extra shelf vanishes again, leaving the room back to normal. The switching makes no sense in the story, yet it feels oddly magical. It is like the furniture has a secret life, rearranging itself whenever the kids are not looking. 22. The door that changed its mind. In Curry Quest, Bandit and Bingo stop by McKenzie's house for a curry swap, but the house itself becomes more confusing than the storyline. The front door looks ordinary when they arrive, plain and steady, the kind of detail you would never think twice about. Yet when they leave, the same door appears with a completely different design, as though someone ripped it out and installed a new one while the family was inside. The strangeness does not end there. A section of paint changes color between shots, shifting like the walls cannot make up their mind. Instead of feeling like a real home, the building behaves like a restless stage prop, secretly playing its own game of pretend. 23. The mothers who moved without moving. In Shadowlands, Bluey and her friends try to stay in the shade, while their mums sit nearby on a picnic blanket. At first, everything looks normal, with the mums facing the kids and watching them play. The camera shifts, and suddenly, their backs are turned, as if they had silently spun around in unison. A moment later, the shot changes again, and they are back to their original positions. No one saw them move, yet the scene insists they did. The effect is jarring, like the mothers are caught in a loop, teleporting between poses while the kids struggle with shadows. 24. The guests who could not sit still. In the sign, the big wedding brings the whole community together, but the background details refuse to behave. During Calypso's story, the kids are seated neatly in rows, with Winton in the front and Jack sitting behind him near the terriers. For a moment, the setup looks fixed and organized. Then the angle changes, and suddenly, the arrangement has shuffled. Jack is no longer beside the terriers, but behind them, while Winton has taken his place as if they switched chairs in silence. Nobody saw them move, yet the scene claims they did. The mistake feels like the guests were playing musical chairs while the wedding carried on, creating an unplanned burst of comedy. Those were 24 moments that prove even Bluey can't escape mistakes. But are they truly accidents? Or could some of them have been planted for eagle-eyed viewers like you? That's the debate. So, where do you stand? Comment your answer, hit the like button, and subscribe now for more hidden chaos waiting to be revealed.